Hello, I see Monica was here before I started as usual. I love that. It's always nice. So I had missed you. I noticed you hadn't been around you hadn't been showing up before me the last at least the last one. I don't know, I can't remember, it was one or two that I noticed that you hadn't been here before me, but I definitely remember at least one of them. You were not here before me, Monica. And I was like, I wonder what happened. Now I know. I hope you had a great time visiting your family. Yay! I'm trying to remember where you normally are. I feel like you normally live in California, but I could be wrong. I want to say like Santa Monica, but I'm probably thinking of someone else. Okay, and then here's Monique. Now I know Monique lives up in Canada. I know. Monica is glad to be back, and we're glad to have you back. And Sarah says hello. And over on Instagram, Road to Healthy waves. So, hi. I love that. So, if you noticed the thumbnail to this, I don't know if you can still see this thumbnail in places or whatever or not, other than when I get the replay going on YouTube. But if you notice the thumbnail, you will see that we are going to chat about blocking. A Road to Healthy over in Instagram says that their name is Ashaya, and they live in Detroit. I hope that I am saying that correctly. It's Aishah, and I am saying Ashaya, which may or may not be correct. Hopefully it's not horrible. As I always tell my kids, names are important. All right, we have a few more comments. All right, I did. Santa Barbara, California, not Santa Monica. Santa Barbara, California. I had the Santa and the California part. It's kind of like what's Rancho. Like in California, there's like Rancho this and Rancho that. There's also several Santas. There's a lot more Ranchos, though. Santa Barbara. And Melting in Toronto, Canada is where Monique is. Road to Healthy says Aisha. Oh, Aisha. Okay. There's somebody named Aisha on like a TV show or something, right? Like Aisha, I know that name, and I'm trying to think why I know the name Aisha. And it's probably something really, really obvious. Like it's one of those pop stars with only one name, and it's just left my brain entirely. Yeah. So I don't know. Aisha. Thank you very much, Aisha, for explaining how to say your name. All right, and we have Sarah says it's very humid here in Austin, Texas. Good weather for blocking then, since we're going to be talking about blocking. Aisha is Monique's middle name, and do you spell it the same way, Monique? That's really cool. That's super cool. Stevie Wonder song, Isn't She Lovely? Oh, is that the name? I feel like I know that. Oh, sorry, that was from Aisha, Road to Healthy. I feel like he wrote that like about his first child or something, but I don't know. Maybe it's just that people always play it. So I guess that's the name Isn't It One? Isn't She Lovely? Which is also what Monique is named after. That's also what Monique was named after. So that would explain why they're also spelled the same way. All right, Sarah Gardner, put her projects outside when you're blocking. Like I said, humid weather is great for blocking. I'll just put my projects outside. I love it, Sarah. You were named after the daughter, Stevie Wonder's daughter, Aisha. Monica says Aisha is from Below Deck. Below Deck. I'm not sure what, I've been watching, it's a Star Trek cartoon, Lower Decks. And there is not somebody named Aisha in Lower Decks. I am not sure what Below Deck is, actually. I don't know that one. Monique says, I don't know, I could block my stuff outside in the humidity, says it's been ridiculous here. Yeah. And I really don't always recommend just putting your stuff outside. Who knows what's going to happen to it, right? But I was making a joke about the humidity. And then we have Vima saying Vima saying hi to everybody. Hi to everybody. Awesome. All right, so let's see. It is 12:05 here in the what is this? The East Coast, right? Upper East Coast of America, United States. I'm in northern New Jersey. We're basically a commuter town in Manhattan. For those of you who don't know where I am, and should have taken stuff back to Georgia, hot and humid. So why don't you all let me know if you have anything you would like to ask or say about blocking, and we're going to talk about a little bit as well. So if you have questions about blocking, if you have like things you like to block, things you don't like to block, if you have brain fry, preferred methods, tips, tricks, anything like that. I am doing pretty well, Vima. Thank you. And we're going to go over some of those things, all right? Because today is all about blocking. I am not going to claim to be a blocking expert. I'm just going to let you know that I have done a decent bit of it. And I have tried different things, and I have certainly had plenty of conversations with others about it. So I've picked up some things along the way, and I am always happy to share. I pulled out some of the things that I have, and I'm realizing I missed a bunch because, that's just the way that it works. I couldn't pull out my black blocking board because you'll see in one of the photos I'm going to share with you, my blocking board is actually my cutting table, work table area. It's over there. I have a table. It is now currently, it sits on some countertop height cabinets. So my work table is countertop height because when I'm over there, I'm working standing up. I block things at it. I have a history of pattern making and costume design, sewing. And so it's really inspired by the tables we always had in the costume shops. I used to run a costume shop for Adelphi University out in Long Island for their theater department. So I'm really used to having the like countertop height working tables. And so that's what I have over here. When I was in undergrad and when I had my own shop, our cutting tables were actually covered with cork, right? Because you cover them with cork, and then you cover that with like muslin or fabric, and that way you can pin things into them, right? Well, I discovered when I was making my table that, first of all, it was like really hard to find cork, big sheets of it. Like I could find little sheets, and you can find cork boards. It's only like a quarter of an inch thick, and I'm like, we had like 1 inch thick, like you could get like the 4x8 sheet of cork, like you get a 4 foot by 8 foot sheet of plywood, various kinds of lumber, whatever, right? Or sheet wood. And I couldn't, I guess I don't think that's like a normal person thing. Plus, it gets super expensive, which Monica is just pointing out. So I'm going to go through all of these real quick in a moment, a bunch of comments and questions here. So when I was making my table, I was like, okay, so covering my work table with cork is not the brightest, is not, it was difficult. I couldn't find a 4 foot by 8 foot or, a big sheet of like at least ½ inch thick cork. And even like even the like squares that you can get that, you see the little hexagon things back there that are like little small cork boards, and those aren't cork. But you can get just like the square of them that's like a foot by a foot. But even those at like a ½ inch were super expensive. So I was talking to my dad, who is a woodworker, may as well have been a contractor. He wasn't technically a contractor, but he knows everything about everything to do with carpentry, woodworking. He started off building houses, all of that sort of stuff. And he suggested I buy, I want to call it like, it's like called like Hemosote or something. It's similar, it's actually used for ceilings, right? And it kind of looks like drywall, right? Only with drywall, the stuff that's in between, like drywall is like a papery backing and a papery front with like a a dry kind of crumbly inside. Like, it's not like if you peel the two sides off, it breaks and crumbles really easy, right? Well, with Humisote, it's not like that. The stuff in the middle is basically, the ceiling tiles in schools that the kids would go whoosh with their pencils and the pencils would stick in them. That's what it is, okay? But you can buy it without all the little like pock marks in it that you see in those ceilings. You can buy it in a 4x8 sheet at like a 1/2 inch and 3/4 inch or something thickness. So that's what I use for my table. Over here, I also made a cork board out of it too. Okay, so my table is actually two like ordered from, you can get them at IKEA, Amazon, I don't know, does Marshall sell make it yourself furniture? Like, all those places where you can buy the furniture that it's flat packed and you put it together yourself. It's just a little like 2 drawers, and underneath the 2 drawers are are like cabinet doors. So it's just a little like, countertop height cabinet, and I have one on the one side and one on the other side. And then on top of that, I had like a half inch or so, a 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch piece of, 4x8 piece of I think it might actually be MDF because it's kind of heavy, but like a particle board, something that's going to stay together is what you want. That's going to handle, weight and everything. And then I stuck the Humisote on top of it. And then I wrapped the whole thing with muslin or fabric. And every once in a while, I change the fabric on the top so that, because sometimes I put my coffee on there, or if I'm blocking things, sometimes it'll get a water spot if my steamer goes whoosh on me, like, when you have that critical fail at the end of your steamer's life. Um, so I use that. And that's what I block things on top of. So we have a lot of comments about other things you can block on, but that's why I can't show you my blocking boards. Let's see. Can you connect granny squares and then block? Yes, you can. I highly recommend blocking them first, because that way you can get if you get each one to the size that it's supposed to be. Say you're working with 12-inch squares. Maybe you're doing the Moogly Cow, right? And you're doing the 12-inch squares. You get each one to 12 inches, and then you join them. Your finished blanket is going to look so much more professional and nice and just great, good, awesome, amazing. Looks so much better if each square was blocked to the correct size individually. Now, while I just said that I highly recommend that, I have made a lot of blankets for Hirschner's catalog, right? And a lot of them are squares. Not necessarily all granny squares, but they're squares, right? And to be perfectly honest, I almost never, when I'm doing that, I almost never block it beforehand. I block it afterwards. Okay. If I'm making something for somebody, I really try to block each square or motif or whatever before joining, and then I block the whole thing afterwards. And like when I mentioned the Moogly Cow, the Moogly Crochet Along, where she does the Afghan, right? And she has different designers design different squares. I pretty much am always the first square every year, right? when I do that, I block my individual square. So if you see like a square design that I've put on my site, I've blocked the individual square. But a lot of those haven't been turned into blankets or anything. I just make the square and then I'm like, woohoo, square done, right? So now I have a stack of them and I'm like, I should really make a blanket with like all the Moogly Cow squares that I have like floating around my apartment. Though some of them did end up on some trees and such when the Montclair Public Library over here, I think it was the library, had like a yarn decorating thing or whatever. I don't remember. They did like a yarn graffiti thing, covered some trees and whatever. So yes, you can connect the granny squares and then block them, and it does work, and it's, they still look good. But if you want the absolute best possible results, block them first, then join them, then block them again. But I'm not going to pretend like I actually really do that. It works the other way too. Blocking is not your favorite thing. A lot of people will say that. Plus, it takes up space, right? I mean, like even my table over here, if I make more of a throw size, I can block the whole thing on there for a blanket. But like a blanket size, it hangs off the table. And a shawl I can usually fit on my table, but I mean, how many of you guys really have a table you can use for blocking, right? I mean, like, for me, this is my business, but you guys know, you probably have, which we're going to hit here, the things that you click together or whatever, or you do it on your bed and hope that you don't leave pins in there, or you do it on your carpet or whatever. All right, so yeah, it can be a pain. I totally get it. Thankfully, you don't have humidity there, but it often goes over 110. Yeah, the humidity, like I said, the humidity is great for it helps you block it, but then it won't ever dry, which is just a big old pain in the butt. All right, so we liked the question about the granny squares. Awesome. Cork is really expensive because it's disappearing now. Yeah. I don't remember what the exact deal is. If like I think they're starting to be better about replenishing the trees, because for those of you who may not know, cork is actually from a cork tree. Cork is a tree, and I feel like it's not necessarily like the outer bark, but it's like I feel like it's almost like, I don't remember how they do it. Honestly, I used to know. I think I might be like, birch peels off like paper, right? But cork is from a tree, and definitely for the longest time they were using it faster than they were growing it, and I think they have gotten better about that. There's more, in the last 20 to 30 years, there's been a lot more, lost my word, but oversight about making sure you're not depleting our resources. But even with oversight, and I don't know how much, I don't know all the facts about this, but I know Monica is right. Monique is right. It is depleting. It was depleting faster than it's depleting now. I'm pretty sure now there's more oversight to it where they have to plant and everything. But in order to not use it faster than it's growing, it also makes the amount that we have lower. So you have your there's the words for it. The people who want to buy it versus how much there is, right? I'm totally losing my English. Premenopause. So much fun. My brain goes whoosh. But yeah, so the need for it is greater than the getting it out there, than the time they can build it. Or they can grow it and everything, so it becomes very expensive. And that's why something like the Humasote, while it is a more man-made material and all of that sort of stuff, I like it for covering my tables. But then the other thing you can do, Sarah says she bought her blocking boards at Lowe's, and she says here later that it's the floor tiles that connect like the kids' flooring stuff. Exactly. Now you can buy those on yarn sites, right? And some of them will have like the 1.5 by 1.5 foot squares, some have the 1 by 1 foot squares, and some have the 3 by 3 foot squares. Okay, but it's kind of like if you buy caboodle that is something, I'm so aging myself by calling it a caboodle, like a makeup case, and I don't know that people do those anymore. But if you buy like a caboodle, which is a makeup case, that is made to be a makeup case, or if you buy like an art bin, art, you know, box, okay? Those are expensive because they're selling them to people who are wearing makeup or people who are making art. But if you buy a tackle box, like a plastic tackle box from a sports store or whatever, it's like half the price, because it's more of a, it's those aren't like, the people buying those aren't as into being like frilly and stuff, right? Even though it's all the same thing. So if you buy the blocking boards, as much as I would love for you to like go to knitpicks or crochet.com and use my affiliate links and spend a lot of money on those blocking boards, you're going to pay more per square inch than if you go to a hardware store and buy the, like, it's like it's usually like garage flooring kind of stuff, and it's kind of smushy. It's very often gray. Sometimes both sides are kind of flat, and sometimes one side is kind of flat and the other side has that kind of like diamond interlocking, like raised diamondy design on it. It's exactly the same thing. Okay, it's going to be gray or something as opposed to the pretty pastel colors. But dude, same thing, lower price. Buy it that way. Unless you have the budget and you want the pretty colors, okay? Or you want to support, you'd rather support, whatever, whoever's selling it as a yarny product than, the home hardware store or whatever. Totally up to you. But if budget is an issue, if money is something that you are looking to, looking to save some money, buy the flooring, so much cheaper. Thank you. Let's see. That's why they no longer put cork in wine bottles, is because, yes, they're still the corks, but they're actually made, I don't remember what they're made out of, but yes. I'm just checking Instagram real quick. We have more people joining, but we do not have any more comments, so I don't have to read them out to you. All right, so let me try to be a little more succinct here. For what you're going to block on, it wants to be something that you can stick pins into. So I personally have a work table over there that's almost 4 feet by 6 feet. I think it's about 4 feet by 6 feet. Maybe 3.5 feet by 6 feet. But anyway, I have that, and it is covered with, it is made out of like a 1/2 to 3/4 inch either MDF or particle board or something. And then on top of that, I bought a 4 foot by 8 foot sheet of, I believe it's called Hemosote, about 1/2 inch thick. It is the kind of stuff they use on the ceilings, the kind of ceilings that you like throw the pencils and they stick into. It's like that. So, no, I would not recommend using drywall instead, because drywall, Hemosote doesn't entirely heal. It's not like the floor tiles that kind of almost heals a little bit. It doesn't really completely heal, but it does a little bit, whereas drywall will eventually start to crumble away. I've had this same Hemosote on this table for probably about 20 years. Okay, it's moved from my apartment to here. It's the same Hemosote. Once I had the Hemosote on top of the wood, I now cover that all with muslin. I change the muslin or fabric or whatever once or twice a year whenever it really needs to be changed. And then I have a lint roller, the ones that you just peel the outside off of. I just buy the refills like in bulk, and I use that to clean it all the time. And then once or twice a year, however often it needs it, I replace the fabric on top. And I'm just careful I try my best not to spill things on there. Sometimes though, when you're blocking, they get wet. You can also use, like we said, the floor tile things that are made, the little like connect floor tiles, like the kids' flooring things. But if you buy them as blocking boards, or if you buy them for kids' rooms, they're going to be more expensive than if you buy the ones that are marketed for like garage floors. But it's all going to be the same. It's just not going to be quite so pretty. You can also, some people will do it on their beds. Definitely do not do this if you have a water bed. But some people will do it on their beds, and will use like safety pins to really make sure that they don't actually leave pins in there. Some people will do it on a carpet floor. Some people will do them on their ironing boards if the ironing board's big enough. I have at times when I didn't have access to my table, I have done it on like my kitchen table and just covered the kitchen table with some towels. Okay. It's not, some items need more like blocking where you like really can pin it in, and other items you can just kind of press them flat with your hands. So it all depends on that sort of situation as to what's going to work for what you're blocking to. Then you need pins, something to stick them together with, to stick them onto your boards with. So I have this little set. After I got these, they started making them in rainbow, which is super fun. But there's two sizes. There's the small, you can see they're kind of separated right there, and the larger ones. And these are blocking, what do they call them? Blocking, knit blockers. Oh, knit blockers. Okay. 12 blockers with 8 pins and 8 blockers with 4 pins. So these are knit blockers, right? And so those are really sharp little pins that stick out of them. So you can just pin down a chunk at a time. These are great. And then I also have, and there's like a little piece of foam inside of here so that you can just stick them back in and without damaging the points. I also have these kind of U-shaped blocking pins. These are from Clover. There we go. Pull it in front of my shirt, right? And it's kind of like a U shape. And these are stainless steel. The blocking pins that I showed you there were stainless steel. I do have T-pins somewhere. I couldn't find them when I was collecting everything. I have T-pins as well, but you want to make sure you get stainless steel because these things are going to get wet. And the last thing you want to do after you've made something beautiful is give them rust spots when you block them, right? So make sure you are using pins that are not going to rust, i.e. stainless steel. Okay? So let's see. And I'm going to keep going through this. Monica says, hadn't thought of the ironing board to block things. If you have something small enough. Those are from Knit Picks. Yes, starts with a K if you're looking for them. And you'll see where I have a link in a moment. And I love these things. They're from Knit Picks, yes. Other places make them as well. Blocking techniques, we're going to talk about that in a moment here. Knit blocking needles, those are great, yes. All right, so now there's a couple techniques you can use, and it's going to depend on your product, your amount of space you have, the amount of time you have, how much blocking something needs. And let's see. Monique says she had pins that were supposed to be rust proof, but they were not, and she now has rust stains on her knitting. Right. So I always say, like, I don't look for rust proof. I look for stainless steel. Right. Now, if it's a company, these actually are not from Knit Picks. This is actually Knitter's Pride, which is now called Knit Pro. Okay, so these were from Knitter's Pride. I think Knit Picks is the one that has the rainbow one. These are like maybe 10, 15 years old. And a couple years ago, they've always been called Knitter's Pro outside, definitely outside. They were Knitter's Pride within the United States. I'm not sure if they were Knitter's Pride in Canada. But over in Europe, at least, they were usually called Knit Pro. They're called Knit Pro everywhere now. So if you can't find Knitter's Pride anymore, you're like, but I like this and that thing from Knitter's Pride. It's called Knit Pro now. It's the same exact company. They just are only using one name now instead of they had the two different names depending on where they were. Same company, same product, same everything. All right. I believe they are based out of India. And from what I have gleaned in my various interactions with them, they seem like a pretty decent company. Um, and they come to lots of trade shows, and they're always really nice to work with. So, and I've never had problems with any of their products. So they make quality products, reasonable prices too. So, makes me happy. I believe I actually bought these. Okay, I don't think I even got these as a a designer here review this or whatever. I think I actually went ahead and paid full price for these suckers, and I use them a lot. So, the blocking combs, thank you, Sarah. That's something that a lot of us will call them, is blocking combs. I mean, this calls them blockers, right? But blocking combs, yeah. Monica has the Knitter's Pride and really likes them, yes. Monique has the rainbow ones, and the rainbow ones I'm almost positive are from Knit Picks. And those came out after I had bought these, or else I would have bought the rainbow ones, right? So you need some sort of pins. Now, there are various ways to block things. I'm going to show you a few pictures here. So, I forgot to actually set this up already for share screen. Okay, but we can do that real quick. It's not like it takes a huge amount of time. Over here, share, and ta-da! Okay, so we're going to real quick show you. This is actually I finally got around to making a shopping page. So, just a quick off topic here. If you go to jessieathome.com/shopping, because Jessie at Home Crochet Foundry, we're the same thing. I've been Jessie at Home for like 17 and a half years, and I bought Crochet Foundry about a year and a half ago. And there's a lot of crossover at this point. If you go to jessieathome.com/shopping, this is going to give you affiliate links for a lot of places that we support. And as with any affiliate link, well, as I hope, any affiliate link I give you, you are going to pay the same price as if you just gone straight to the site, or possibly less, but definitely not more. And then we get a small commission from that. So there are some places in here where you can get blocking supplies and everything. I do want to point out to you that Twice Sheared Sheep, okay, all you have to do to go to those places is click on the image. Okay, if you click on the image, then it will take you. Oh, it looks like my Twice Sheared Sheep is not linked. I'm going to have to fix that. So I will fix the Twice Sheared Sheep so it's linked. And as soon as we're off here, it was, but I seem to have messed it up when I added in the coupon code. If you use the link, which I will pull up for you after I'll get you the link. If you use the link that will be here within a few minutes of this being over, and you use code JessieAtHome20, you'll get 20% off anything in the Twice Sheared Sheep store, with the exception of the Advent and surprise boxes. I know you're like, no, the Advent box, it's like $200-something, and you would really love to have the discount on it. Sorry, they don't discount that. They don't discount the Advent or surprise boxes. Everything else you can get 20% off. So you can click the link, you can click my link, you can get yourself the Advent box, and then get yourself a bunch of other stuff too that you can get the discount on, so you don't feel so bad about spending money on the Advent box because you got a discount on everything else you bought. Because this is, as my children say, they say it's girl math, and I say no, it's like people who have expensive hobbies math. All right, so we have Twice Sheared Sheep, we have Hirschner's, we go Sadie, Crochet.com, and Knit Picks will definitely both have blocking supplies. Hirschner's might, I can't remember if Knit Picks does. Furls does not have blocking supplies, but they have awesome crochet hooks. Lion Brand, Creative Bug, Home Sewing Depot, Artistry, Blick Art Materials, aka Dick Blick. they just only go by Blick now because Dick Blick is not quite people giggle when you say that now. Craftsy, completing the puzzles. This place is great. It's like remember how Netflix, you used to be able to like rent a DVD? You'd get a DVD and then you'd send it back and you get another one, whatever. That's what completing the puzzle does. And they'll do like two, you can do it like two at a time. So like you have a puzzle, you're making a puzzle, right? And when you get two puzzles, right? And so when you're done making one of them, you send it back and they'll send you another one. But since you do two at a time, when you send that one back, you can be working on the next one. And then your other puzzle will arrive before you're done. Yeah, it's super fun and cool. This is Dreaming Tree, which makes SVGs for paper products. So like you can print them out, you can cut them out with your cutter, or you can print out the pattern and like trace it or whatever. Quilling cards, mobile pixels. This is where I get all my extra screens and stuff from. They're awesome. This one, I can't remember the name of it. It starts with an A, but it's like camera accessories for your phone and your cameras. My registry, you can make a registry for anything. Doesn't have to be a wedding. They don't have a generic picture for like registry for anything. You could just make a gift. You can just make a plain old gift registry for like, in lieu. A lot of people have like an Amazon wish list. You could do that sort of a thing here, but you can put links to anything here, and it's free. And share a sale if you are looking to be either have an affiliate program of your own or become an affiliate like I am. I do that. Share a sale is one of the places that I do that through. So, okay, so there's all of that, but the twice sheared sheep 20% off is awesome sauce. All right, so real quick then, let's go over here. I know I'm talking fast, but I want to get like as much as possible in. Oh, that's not actually what I was going to show you. What I was going to show you is the photos. Woohoo! All right, so let's make this nice and big. All right, so here we have blocking. And there's different ways. This particular piece, I wet blocked. So what I did with this is a super long wrap. And I'm going to talk about what is going on back here and everything. So just give me a minute. What I did when I wet blocked this is I have a big bowl, right, that I put just like room temperature water in and put in some of this unicorn fiber rinse. Unicorn fiber rinse is what I use when I wet block things. Okay, it does not have to be rinsed out. The fiber rinse does not have to be rinsed out. The fiber wash is for when you're washing, and that gets, your washing does get rinsed out. Fiber wash is what I use when I wash things, and fiber rinse is what I use when I block things. So this was wet blocked, so I put a little bit of the fiber rinse in with the room temperature water, and then I soaked this finished piece in there a little bit, and I just kind of gave it a little bit of a couple little gentle squeezes and moves. Now this is a cotton yarn, so I could have and it would have been pretty much okay as long as I didn't wasn't wearing my ring and get it caught on something or whatever. But obviously if you're using like wool, something that will felt, if you start really agitating, its reaction to being agitated is to go whoosh, okay, and also to heat is to felt. So you have to be aware of that sort of stuff. This I could have done pretty much anything to and it would have been fine, but still, when you are wet blocking, when you're doing anything like that, be aware of whether or not you're going to accidentally felt something. All right, so I had this done. I had this wet, and then what I did was, this is on my blocking table, but because I wet blocked it, I actually do put down towels. I have towels here in my studio that don't do that gathery thing. Some of your less expensive towels, when you wash them, this little stripe piece right here shrinks more than the rest of it, and then you get that gathered edge, right? If you have like the towels, if you have those towels and you want to use them for blocking, just cut off that edge and it'll lay flat again. You can always fold it and run it through the sewing machine to make sure that it's not fraying or whatever, but that totally, you don't have to. It totally works for blocking, right? And then you can cut off the piece off of the the gathered bit off of the other end, and that other end you can maybe cut it into 2 or 3 pieces and just use them for cleaning cloths or whatever. Or you can fold it and sew it, make like a little terry cloth head wrap. Totally works. I should do a little sewing tutorial on how to take that towel and like repurpose it, because I have one of those towels. It's like seriously pulled in. I totally should do that. So I put the towels on my board, my cutting board, on my blocking board when I wet block, because it is pretty wet. What I did when I pulled this wrap. When you're wet blocking, you take it out of the water after it's done its little soak, right? And what I then will do is I'll lay it on a towel. In this case, I think I had to fold it in half and maybe actually in quarters, and laid it on the towel, and then I roll it within the towel. You roll it in the towel, and then you squeeze the roll. Okay, if you've ever made a jelly roll, the towel is like the cake of the jelly roll, or a cinnamon roll. The towel is like the dough, and then your piece is like the crumble that goes in or the inside pieces, the inside flavoring that goes inside your cinnamon roll, or the jelly that goes in your jelly roll or whatever, right? And then you roll it all up and you squeeze it. You don't wring it, okay? You squeeze it. And because if you wring it, it's going to deform your piece. Again, what your fiber content will change how much it will deform, but it will deform your piece if you wring it. Don't do that. So you just squeeze it, and I squeeze it over the sink and get as much water as I possibly can out. And then I unroll that, and I have brand new dry towels on my blocking board. And then I put the piece down and I block it on there. Now, this piece I just laid flat. It was because when it's wet blocked, it's a lot more likely that you won't need as many pins, because it's a lot more malleable when it's wet. Okay, it'll go where you want it to go when it's wet. So I just laid it out, and you can see this thing when it's wet. Oh my gosh, it grows, right? It grows so much. And this was way too long for my blocking board. So I had to fold it in half, but I didn't want to get a crease. So this is one of my favorite tricks to do, especially when I'm when I'm blocking a cowl, because a cowl is folded, right? It's a tube. So how do you block a cowl without it having a press, a crease on the two ends? Well, what I did here is I rolled up another towel. So I had my wrap laying out flat, and then I rolled a towel, I put it on there, and then I folded the wrap over the towel so that it's round here. Now, what I'll do for a cowl is I'll have two of those, and I'll put one on, so the cowl, it's wrapped around, you have it folded in half, because that's what it has to happen, right? And then you put the rolled towels at the two folded points, so that keeps those from being creases, okay? And it also helps give it something more to dry on the towel instead of on itself. You can also there's blocking wires, okay? So I could have run blocking wires through here. Again, make sure you get blocking wires that are stainless steel, okay? When you're trying to save money, you sometimes will get ones that aren't actually stainless steel. And so make sure you get ones that are stainless steel so you don't get rust on your pieces. But the blocking wires will give you really nice, beautiful straight edges, which I will do for some items. But this one I wasn't so concerned about. And I just, like I said, I just laid it out how I wanted it to be, and all was good. And I just let it dry for like a day or two, depends on how long, depends on the weather, the temperature. If it's really humid, it's not going to dry as fast. And depends on the fiber content, all of that sort of stuff. Now, this is another technique I did where I did spray blocking. And this is actually a cork board. It's not cork, it's Hemasode again. All right, so this is actually vertical. And these are a bunch of bracelets that I made for Pride something or other. Okay, so I have all of these bracelets, and then after they were blocked, I tied the ends together, or no, I think people just tied them on themselves, but or we tied them on them when they wanted them. I don't remember exactly, but anyway, they were curly, and they were curly like from the top of the rainbow to the bottom of the rainbow. So it's not like curly as in the way your wrist goes, and that wouldn't matter. They were curly the other way. So I pinned them really tightly onto this board. And since they're only bracelets, they're not very long. So I could just pin them on the two sides, right? So I pinned all 4 quarters really tightly. And then what I did was I put really hot water in a spray bottle, and you can put in some fiber wash. And now Unicorn Clean has a product called Silk Milk that is made for blocking. You could use that as well, and it's in a little spray bottle, so you could spray it with that. But then I also sprayed it with really, really hot water. So it's hot. I just really hot water. I basically just use the hottest water from the tap because well, you don't normally I use distilled water for blocking things, but in this case I just used like the hottest possible tap water. Because if you boil the water and you put it in a spray bottle, you're probably going to melt your spray bottle. So be aware. Now, if you have like the glass, I do have a lot of glass spray bottles. I get them from grove.com. But the spray part is still plastic, right? So there's still going to be a temperature issue. So as hot as your spray bottle can handle, and then I sprayed them while they were pinned onto the board. So you can spray block like that. Again, though, remember it's going to get whatever is behind it wet, and you're only spraying the one side. So you could spray it, kind of spray it beforehand, then pin it down. I usually spray it after it's pinned down. Another way you can do is you can do steam blocking. If you do not have an actual steamer, you can use an iron to steam block, and you put on, if you have a steam iron, you put it on the steam setting and you hover over the item. You don't actually press the iron to the yarn. That would be bad. You hover over it so that the steam is hitting it. But I do recommend getting a little handheld steamer or something. They're totally worth it. And you just hit it with the steam, and then I'll have it pinned the way I want it. Then I'll hit it with the steam and kind of pat it into the place, and that works really well. Okay, so this is star bunting, all right, and you can see how I have it pinned. I have the 5 points of the stars are all pinned down, and I tend to, when I'm steam blocking, I tend to do the wrong side up, okay? And so that's how this is. This is wrong side up. And then what I did was, again, you hover over it with the steam iron and you hit the steam button, or if you have a steamer, you hit it with the steam. And then I use my hand to kind of pat it into shape a little bit more. You leave the pins in there while it dries, and it blocks really nicely that way. So that's what that one is. Do I have one more photo? Yes, this was my fall leaves wrap that I made for a design competition, and it took first place in its category. And you can see how I have pinned it out. Again, this is on my board, right? I wet blocked it, so I soaked it in water and a little bit of fiber rinse, and then I rolled it up in a towel and squeezed, not twisted, but squeezed the towel to get the excess water out. And then I put fresh dry towels on top of my blocking board and pinned it down in place. Okay, this method, you could also pin it down in place and steam it without doing the wet blocking first. If you wanted to steam block it, you could pin it down really well and then toss some steam at it as well. Okay, and that is the lid to my container of pins. If you're like, what's that? It's the lid to my container of pins. It's a really pretty wooden box that my father made. All right, these are just showing some before and after of squares that I made and blocked. So you can see how there's curling here. There's curling on the outer edge. then I blocked it and everything is lying flat. It's, you know, the where the color changes crisp, as opposed to here kind of folding. There are green flower leaves here. The color isn't the best in this image. And then this one, it looks like I also, between the two pictures, I did also give it a border. Um, and those most likely were steam blocked. All right. So let me, where is my stop sharing? Let's pop over to this image. Come on. Woo, there we go. Come on. There we go. And I'll turn this. I'm going to go over the comments because we have more. All right, so let me see. It's a pretty wrap. Thank you. Do you have something like fiber wash? Yes. No, you do not have to use. You do not have to use fiber wash when you're blocking, okay? You can do just water, and it is totally fine. If you have fiber wash, I like to use it because, or fiber rinse, sorry, fiber wash needs to be rinsed out, so I wouldn't use that when I was blocking because then I'd have to get it wet and rinse it out again. Fiber rinse, you put a little bit of it in the water when you're blocking, and it helps condition the fiber. It protects the color. Like, there's a lot of really good qualities to it. It also kind of freshens it if it doesn't smell great. And yeah, so I definitely prefer to use it, but if you don't have it, you can just use water and you're totally fine. Blocking wires are great for lacy shawls. They're totally awesome. Because you can like run them through like the lace points and pull it out. And it's also, because of blocking wire, they're basically like 3-foot long, thick kind of wires that they don't like bend. They will bend a little bit, but they don't like fold. They're not super bendy. So you can shape them with the pins, like how you pin them in place, but you can also leave them totally straight. And again, you still need to pin them in place. But if you need to like really pull out your blocking like you do with lace, where like a piece is like this big when you're done, okay, and then it's like this big when you block it, okay, like that shawl, the rainbow shawl, it was like maybe about a foot wide when I finished crocheting it, and it was more like a foot and a half or a foot and like maybe 4 inches. So it probably grew about 4 inches side to side when I blocked it, because it's got a lace stitch to it. They stretch a lot. So blocking wires are great for that. Lots of Grove glass bottles, yeah, those are great. Hot water, okay, yes, hot water will make the fabric shrink. For those bracelets that I made, they were well, it will cause felting. The heat and agitation are what causes felting. Those bracelets were cotton. The hot water doesn't necessarily make, like, when your cotton shrinks, it's usually when you're drying it, right? So because it was hot water in the spray bottle, but you gotta think, when you spray it, it kind of make it, by the time it gets through the spray bottle, out the spray, and hits the item, like, I make it as hot as I possibly can, and it's still just like warm by the time it hits the thing, because it's got to come out of the spray bottle in like a mist or like a tiny stream or whatever, right? So it kind of has cooled pretty well by the time it hits the thing. That's why you want to make it so darn hot. But yes, the more feltable or whatever your item is, the more you want to be aware of your temperature. So you can certainly do the spritz blocking with cold water, with room temperature water. I used the hottest I possibly could water in that spray bottle for those cotton bracelets, because they were really rolling. I probably should have like just wet blocked them or steam blocked them. But I don't think I think my steamer had just died on me, and I just didn't want to go through the hassle of them being wet. So I sprayed them. Okay, and this is a wonderful question. Why distilled? Okay. If you are, I would say if you have a steamer of any kind, always, always, always only put distilled water in it. Okay? Because other waters will have other things in them that can get into the works of your steamer and cause it to have a shorter lifespan. Okay, so if you have like a coffee maker or something, you know how sometimes you have to run that stuff through it. I can't think of what you call that, but it's like a it's like there's like calcium buildups or whatever. I don't remember, but like you have to run that stuff through it to clean whatever it is that you've been running water through, and all you've been running through is water, but it's usually tap water, right? So if you use distilled water in your steamers, then they will have a longer lifespan. And also, sometimes when you put whatever is in your water, especially if you're talking about tap water, it may react to being turned into steam and hitting fabric or hitting your yarn differently, to the point where it could leave spots or cause it to discolor or whatever. It's so much safer to use distilled water, and like a gallon bottle of distilled water is under $1 and will last forever for a steamer, right? So just if you have a steamer, handheld or whatever, use distilled water. It's safer on your crochet or knit items, and it will extend the life of your steamer or whatever. So it's totally worth the price. Should you use specific techniques depending on what yarn you're using? Yes. And no. It depends. It's a combination of the yarn and the stitch and what you're making, how blocked you want it to be. I find that wet blocking is great. Wet blocking and steam blocking are great when things want to grow a lot. Wet blocking is like, I wouldn't wet block a blanket, because oh my god, the amount of time that would take. And I would only wet block something that you can block in one go. So like when I block a blanket, I tend to steam block it, because it very rarely, like a throw kind of blanket or a baby blanket will fit entirely on my blocking table. But if it's too big for my blocking table, which like a blanket that goes on a bed is too big for my blocking table, and even some wraps that are really long are too big for my blocking table. If it's too big for my blocking table, then what I'll do is I'll steam, like, I'll do it in quarters or halves, if I can do it in halves. Like if I can turn it the rectangle the opposite direction, you do half and then half. But I'll block it in sections, and I'll steam block it. And I'll make sure there's an overlap to the sections that I'm blocking. So you don't want to wet block something in sections, because it's hard to only get one section wet, right? And also wet blocking takes longer to dry. Also, wet blocking is going to be more likely to felt something that's feltable than steam blocking is. Okay. And then just the spritz blocking spritz blocking is really more of like a light blocking. Spritz blocking and steam blocking both work really well for squares. I tend to default to steam blocking because I have a handheld steamer that I love. But if it just needs a really, really light blocking, you can just do the spritz blocking, and and it's all good. All right. I'm thinking that's probably the shawl. Descaling. Thank you, Monique. I knew it was. See, a couple of you are like descaling. Yes, that's the word I was looking for. Using distilled keeps the minerals out of your projects and steamers. Yes, you have to use distilled water in your CPAP for the exact same reason. That keeps all those minerals out. Like, you don't drink distilled water because, like, you'll drink spring water, or when you go to buy the different kinds of water, there's like spring water and drinking water, and then there's distilled water. You don't want to drink the distilled water because the distilled water has taken out some of the minerals that are in your spring water or drinking water that are actually good for you, right? The distilled water is like awesome for running through a machine. It's not going to get any of those minerals on your projects or in your steamer. So exactly. Tap water can cause a lot of calcium buildup. Yes. Steam block acrylic. Yes. So with acrylic, there's something that is called killing the fibers. I know it's 1 o'clock and I have my live starting here, so the sit and stitch is going to be a little bit late. I'm going to try to wrap this up. We can, if you guys have more questions or whatever, we can answer more questions next week too. If you iron acrylic, it'll get a little melty depending on how hot you iron it. I mean, you really shouldn't iron your yarn anyway. But if you really hit it hard with the steam, it will grow and never shrink back again. Okay, because acrylic doesn't bounce back the way like a wool does or whatever. So the more you steam block the acrylic, the less likely it will ever go back to a different shape. Steam blocking acrylic is great for getting it exactly how you want it, and it won't move again. Okay, I mean, it'll move, and it does definitely soften it up. It's awesome for blankets and whatever. But it doesn't, snap back to its previous qualities. So steam blocking is great for acrylic as long as you understand that concept. Okay, if you find that when you're steam blocking something, like if you want the acrylic to have, if you have an acrylic that you're using for like a basket, something where you want it to have, like you crocheted it tight, you want it to be stiff. If you want your crochet, knit, whatever item to remain stiff, do not steam block. You can wet block, you can spritz block, but do not steam block, because if you steam block it, that tends to soften it up. Okay, so I would not steam block it. For that situation, I would wet block it. But steam blocking is great when you want to kind of soften up your acrylic. And I know there are a lot of acrylics out there now that are nice and soft, but it's great for softening up your acrylic, and it's great for getting it exactly the shape that you want it to be. Just know that it's not going to rebound the way that some of the natural fibers were. And we are like so out of time, guys. So we can certainly next week, if you want to continue this conversation, if you have more questions, we can do that as well next week. And maybe I will put together a list of some products that I really like to use or whatever. And then the sit and stitch is going to start, like, just give me a couple minutes to clean up this stuff and get on to that. So sorry if I'm a few minutes late to the sit and stitch. For those of you who want to go to the sit and stitch and don't know where it is, let me bounce back to here real quick. If you're like, how can I go to the sit and stitch? What are you talking about? We have a Zoom sit and stitch from 1 to 3 today. They vary depending on which first, second, third, fourth Wednesday of the month. So if you go to crochetfoundry.com, and you look at the navigation menu, if you're on the phone, it'll have the hamburger menu, which are those 3 little lines. You click on those and it pulls up the navigation menu. Under community, there is event calendar, and then it's going to pull up the event calendar. And when it does and it populates, then stop showing that. Then you will see today is the 16th at the Foundry afternoon sit and stitch. Click on that and you can read more and it will give you the link. All right. So I will see you there. Have a wonderful day. Just 2 or 3. Let me get a couple things done real quick and I will pop over and get the Zoom sit and stitch started. And I will also see you again at noon Eastern next week. And Monica says she can't make it to the sit and stitch. Sarah says she will be a little bit late because she has to eat lunch. All right. I'll see y'all soon. Bye-bye.